Welcome back, everybody. Get ready to dive deep as we explore cryptocurrency, technology, and where it all might be heading. We've got a ton to unpack this time around stablecoin movements, Bitcoin's wild ride, AI scams, even those quantum computing worries. Should be interesting.
Definitely a lot to cover. It's fascinating how these pieces connect. By the end, we'll have a clearer picture of what it all means, not just for the markets, but for you too.
That's what we aim for. Speaking of connections, one article you sent mentioned Tether, the big stablecoin, hitting a $120 billion market cap. Not small potatoes, huh?
Huge, actually, and historically. This kind of stablecoin surge often comes right before Bitcoin makes a run for it. Like back in August, remember? Similar pattern, Bitcoin dips, Tether mints new coins like crazy. Then, bam, Bitcoin shoots up 21%. Almost like investors prepping for a price battle.
So are we waving the crypto bull run flag then? Especially since your research mentioned October's usually good for Bitcoin anyway?
Could be. October, they call it sometimes, and for good reason. But this year's got an extra kick. The Bitcoin halving. Basically, every 4 years, the reward for mining Bitcoin gets chopped in half. Less supply, theoretically, higher price. It's happened before.
But wouldn't a price surge go against what that Federal Reserve paper was suggesting? Didn't sound like they were big crypto fans.
Yeah, not exactly embracing it. This paper from the Minneapolis Fed, really interesting, argued that Bitcoin's fixed supply makes it tough for governments to do their usual economic stuff like deficit spending. And their solutions: tax Bitcoin heavily or, get this, ban it outright.
Wow, talk about extreme. Almost like they admit Bitcoin's a threat just by considering that.
Exactly. Shows the tension between decentralized finance like Bitcoin and the traditional systems. One wants control, the other is built to exist without it. How that plays out, big implications.
Control, right. Reminds me of that article on AI scams you flagged.
Ah,
Kind of fits that theme of tech being used in ways we don't expect.
totally links back to the human element, actually. That deepfake of Elon Musk a while back, very convincing. Well, now they're doing it with Chris Larson, the Ripple co-founder. AI makes it look like he's promising to double people's XRP. Classic pump and dump scheme.
And people fall for it.
It's sophisticated, and they prey on people who are eager to get in on the ground floor.
Wild. So from AI tricking us to quantum computers maybe breaking the internet. You had some worries about that, right?
Right, quantum computing, advancing crazy fast, but those headlines saying it'll instantly crack all our encryption, bit overblown. Like, the research they're basing that on used tiny key sizes. Imagine picking a dollhouse lock and claiming you can break into Fort Knox.
Okay, it's not time to panic just yet. But when quantum computers do get that good, what then? You mentioned quantum-resistant encryption. What even is that?
Essentially, it's a race. Researchers are building entirely new types of encryption that even super advanced quantum computers hopefully can't crack. Time will tell.
A tech arms race. How fitting. Makes you wonder, though, what if quantum computing does win that race? What happens to online banking, our data, even national security?
Big question. And it's not just theoretical. We've seen how exposed our data can be even with today's tech. Those abandoned red box kiosks you sent? Perfect example.
Seemed like such a weird story. Abandoned red boxes, what's so valuable about those?
More than you'd think. They've often got customer names, emails. Some even had payment info just left sitting there.
No way, and they just left them unsecured.
Sadly, yeah. Just abandoned, some even found in dumpsters. Really makes you think even companies we barely think about can be careless with our data. And when a company like Redbox, which is going through bankruptcy, holds your data, it makes you wonder who is responsible for protecting it and what options customers like us even have.
Right. It's not always masterminds hacking. Sometimes it's just plain carelessness. But then, even when we know about a problem, that Google Mandiant report you mentioned, the speed hackers move at these days is scary. What stood out to you from their findings?
The biggest takeaway is how fast cybercriminals are using exploits for new vulnerabilities. We're talking just 5 days now, on average, from a vulnerability being found to it being exploited.
5 days. You barely have time to process that, let alone fix it.
Exactly. It's a constant uphill battle for those trying to secure systems. Makes you realize how important being proactive is. Things like network segmentation, which isolates important data, real-time threat detection to catch intrusions, and keeping software updated, always updated.
Feels almost impossible to keep up sometimes, even trying to stay informed like we are. For our listener out there who might be feeling overwhelmed by all this, quantum threats, data vulnerabilities, what are some concrete things they can do to be safer?
I get it, it's a lot. But even small steps make a difference. Password manager, that's non-negotiable these days.
Especially since who can remember a million different complicated passwords, right? Easier to just reuse the same bad one everywhere.
The worst. A password manager makes and remembers super strong, unique passwords for everything, like a digital vault for your keys. And while we're on the topic of keys, two-factor authentication. Gotta mention it.
2FA, right. I hear about it constantly, but honestly haven't set it up everywhere. Is it really that much better?
One of the most effective things you can do, no question. Adds that extra layer of security, so it's not just your password, but maybe a code from your phone, a security key, something else to verify it's really you.
So even if someone did get my password, they still couldn't get in. That makes sense. Any tips on doing 2FA right? App, physical key, what's best?
App or a physical key, those are the gold standard. Way better than getting codes by text or email, which can be intercepted. Lots of services are offering these stronger options now. Worth checking what your go-to apps and websites have.
So strong, unique passwords, password manager, 2FA, wherever possible. What else should we be thinking about?
Phishing scams, they're sneakier than ever. Really scrutinize any email asking for info. Does the sender seem right? Any weird phrasing? Does something feel off? Your gut's often right. When in doubt, contact the sender directly using info from a trusted source, not the email itself.
True, some of those fakes are really well done. Easy to get tricked when you're bombarded with emails all day. Any other wisdom for dodging the digital landmines out there?
Be picky about what you click. No downloading files or visiting sites that seem sketchy, and those privacy policies we all scroll past. Worth a read sometimes. It's our data they're talking about, how it's collected, used, potentially shared. Important stuff.
It's amazing how much we just give away without realizing it. Almost a full-time job keeping track.
You're telling me, but that's why even these small steps matter. It's about being empowered, not living in fear. The more we know, the better off we are.
Well, I love that attitude. And speaking of human elements, which seems to be a theme here, you found that story about someone using social engineering to fool a mobile carrier. Crazy. Proof that even with fancy tech, sometimes it's just old-school trickery that gets you.
No kidding. This guy allegedly convinced a mobile carrier employee he was FBI, got a new SIM card, used it to clean out some crypto investor's account. Social engineering, they call it. Still works scarily well.
Almost creepier than a hacker, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's more personal.
For sure. And it's everywhere, not just in person. Think about phishing emails trying to steal passwords, fake websites that look real, even just messing with people on social media to sway what they think or do.
Makes you wonder, how do you even fight that? Feels unavoidable.
It's tough, but honestly, awareness is huge. The more we know their tactics, pretending to be someone important, making it seem urgent, playing on emotions, the easier it is to spot those red flags. And never hurts to be a little skeptical.
Trust your gut. Deal's too good to be true. Weird request. Better safe than sorry.
Exactly. Ask questions, double-check info. If there's any doubt, verify it with a real source, not just whoever contacted you.
Good advice. This whole dive, crypto, tech, security, it really hits home information, is power. The more we know, the better we navigate this stuff.
Couldn't agree more. It's not about being cybersecurity pros overnight, but becoming more digitally literate. Knowing the basics, what threats are out there, that's how we stay ahead of the curve.
This has been quite the journey. Stablecoins, Bitcoin versus the system, AI going rogue, quantum worries, even something as simple as tricking a person. Wild times we're in.
No doubt. But the takeaway is, knowledge is our friend. Awareness, a little skepticism, that's how we handle this ever-changing world.
Love it. So everyone listening, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe out there. Until next time, keep diving deep.